Bismarck, considered by most naval experts to be the most perfectly equipped fighting ship in the world, was spotted leaving the Norwegian port of Bergen for the high seas. Britain's largest warship, the Hood, joined in the hot pursuit. Events were to end tragically for the majestic English craft as she was sunk by the Bismarck during the ensuing battle. But England was to have its revenge. The battleships Rodney and King George steamed to the scene along with over 100 other vessels. After a pursuit of almost 2,000 miles, the Armada caught up with the Bismarck some 400 miles west of Brest, France. It was the Dorsetshire who finally landed the coup de grace that sunk the mighty German battle wagon. Only 100 of her crew could be saved. The rest had gone down with her ship. The highly vaunted Bismarck had been sent to the bottom in one of the most historic moments of World War II.
On the 60th anniversary of Bismarck's sinking, a handful of survivors come together to remember the past. This year, in an extraordinary gesture, they have also invited the men from the English ships who sank them.
That was my station up there, on the King George V.
Once they met as enemies. Now, 6 decades later, they meet as friends.
You know, the amazing thing is, you know, here are these guys that are like 78, 79, 80, one of them is 84, and you can see why they're survivors. You know, here you had hundreds and hundreds of men going into the cold, you know, North Atlantic waters, and these are the guys that made it. I mean, and you can see why, because they have the will to live. They're healthy. They're fit. You know, 80-year-old guys that could probably run me around the block. I really admire them. You know, you can really see that they have a spirit of life about them.
That you? Handsome devil. He was an officer. Yeah.
And I saw every shell coming towards us.
You could actually see them in the air?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
And we saw all ours going towards the Bismarck.
I wasn't aware of that. You can actually see the shell in the
Where
air.
I was.
Yeah.
I think, you know, we're obviously talking to the ones that want to be interviewed and the ones that can talk about it. So they've made their peace with it, or they feel that the need to have people remember what happened is greater than whatever their pain might be in going back to that place in their lives, in their memory. But I know that they've said that when they went back home after the war, they couldn't tell their friends that there were, you know, there were things they couldn't talk about because people would not understand.
What did you feel when you saw Bismarck for the very first time, when you walked up to the ship?
Ein sehr großes Schiff hier. Und,
it was a very big ship. And I thought, when you get on this ship, nothing can happen to you. Everyone believed she was unsinkable, so you felt safe too.
Der Eindruck war ein gewaltiger. Man sieht ein gewaltiges
Magnificent.
Schiff. Das modernste
Overwhelming. The size of the ship, as you can see here, was amazing. The most modern ship of its time. Every ship that came after the Bismarck had learned from it, learned from us.
Es ist sicherlich nichts Geheimes, wenn wir heute.
back then I was 18 years old, and I, and many others, of course, we were convinced this is the right thing to do. Now, well, everyone knows better.
From the time Bismarck set out on his first sea campaign, Operation Rhine, it only lived 9 days. These men were among the 115 sailors who survived. 2,300 of their shipmates perished. Jim Cameron arrives in Germany with a crew of 32 technicians, scientists, historians, and Bismarck survivors to meet the Russian oceanographic ship, the academic Keldysh.
Very warm.
Among the 90-member Russian crew are many old friends from Cameron's 2 prior expeditions.
Hi, Olga. How you doing? Good to see you. Mir's okay?
It has taken a year for the expedition team to prepare for the technical challenges of exploring the Bismarck.
I enjoy this. To me, it's an alternative to making movies, which is as technically challenging as emotionally challenging. And it's something that I can use my skills as a filmmaker, but it's not just about the filmmaking. It's about creating the technology. It's about the personal challenge of actually going into this hostile environment, doing things right, doing things safely, and coming back with results. You know, and I find that very exciting.
Hello, Walter. Hello, Carl. Here we are. Welcome aboard the Keldysh.
I've done so much work at the Titanic wreck over 2 expeditions and never really had access to the survivors, their perspective, their emotional perspective. So I've always had to wonder, I've always had to create it in my mind based on things that might have been written. But having them right here gives it an immediacy.
It's a real pleasure to drive down this beautiful canal with the green scenery on both sides of us. And it reminds me of when I went through the canal. I went through it twice during that period.
When Bismarck first became operational, she set out for the North Sea through the Kiel Canal to begin her sea trials. 6 decades later, Keldysh retraces the same path.
Looking back, I would say that we have been used by the government of the time. As young men, we risk our lives. But for whom?
Well, that's how we grew up. I was born in 1923. When Hitler came to power, I was 10. Then we went through the whole drill, young folk, Hitler Youth, and on Saturdays there was national holiday. That's when we did all kinds of sports, shooting exercises and so weiter and so weiter. I was in the Marine Hitler Youth. The ulterior motive was play and prepare for the real thing.
Today, Adolf Hitler is an icon of evil. But to Karl and Walter, and thousands of boys like them, he was a living god. He guided them beyond morality, swept them up in the hysteria of the Nazi cult. He channeled their anger and their patriotic spirit with calculated precision, capturing young hearts better than the biggest rock star. They felt strong, proud, a part of something great and immortal. Nothing could touch them. Thoughts of death, either their own or the murders they were being sent out to commit, were drowned out by the roar of the Sieg Heil.
Sieg Heil!
We just have to admit, our generation would have gone to hell and back for Hitler. Everyone can hear that from me.
It sounds crazy, but we were proud to die for the fatherland. That's the way it was. As if you were a hero to do so.
What you see here is where the Bismarck was built. This entire area, the Helling, is where she was built and let down into the water.
Tauche ist bis auf den Namen Bismarck.
Bismarck was built in secret in Hamburg and launched in 1939. It was the embodiment of Hitler's vast ego in a cathedral of steel. It was the ultimate killing machine, the Death Star of its time. At 830 feet, it was almost as long as the Titanic, but it was 30 feet wider and so heavily armored, it weighed almost twice as much. Despite its mass, it could make 32 knots, driven by engines generating 150,000 horsepower. Each barrel of its 15-inch guns weighed 250,000 pounds. They could destroy a ship over 15 miles away. The side armor was an advanced formula Krupp steel, 13 inches thick, designed to resist a fury of torpedoes and the largest caliber shells.
On this side, you will still find armor plates from the Bismarck. After all those years, I recognize them due to this incision, made here to analyze the steel. Pretty good steel, right?
The German naval strategy at the time was ruthless. Bismarck's sole purpose was to hunt the convoys in the North Atlantic and destroy the ships bringing food and supplies to England, starving that country into surrender. Sink the ships, kill the crews, take no prisoners. Fast, deadly, and virtually invulnerable, Bismarck was a fierce predator. It had to be stopped before it could reach the open Atlantic and begin its reign of terror. It is the afternoon of May 22nd when Keldysh heads out to the open sea west of Denmark. 61 years earlier to the day, Bismarck was also steaming west into open sea at the beginning of its voyage after leaving safe harbor in Norway. Keldysh has no guns or armor. It's a ship of peace, the largest oceanographic research ship in the world. The Russian word for peace is Mir, and Keldysh is the mothership for two deep submersibles called Mir 1 and Mir 2. There are only 4 submersibles in existence capable of diving to 20,000 feet, and Keldysh operates 2 of them. The Mirs are the only double subsystem in the world and have the most powerful batteries of any deep submersible, making them ideal for lighting up the depths where no sunlight has ever penetrated. The architect of the Mir program is Dr. Anatoly Sagalevich, who not only designed the Mirs, but has logged the most hours piloting them.
Пусть задача сложна, мы решать все должны до конца с открытым забралом.
As the head of the Russian manned submersible program, Anatoly is chief pilot, chief scientist, and the unofficial mayor of this seafaring village called Keldysh. Jim's brother Mike is the designer and builder of most of the deep-sea technology used on the expedition. Mike's remotely operated vehicles, or ROVs, will photograph for the first time ever the interior of the Bismarck wreck. They are nicknamed Jake and Elwood.
This ROV is designed to go inside of a wreck. If you took a normal ROV in there that had a tether, it would get hung up very quickly. This ROV pays out its own tiny fiber, and it pays it out like a spider spinning a web, so that if it goes around a corner and goes around a bunch of debris, the ROV just pays more out. So you can go in one window or door and come out a whole different place on the wreck.
It has taken Mike and his team 3 years to develop this ROV technology.